Colonel Abram Dury led the 5th New York Volunteer Infantry from their positions at Camp Hamilton, and despite some delays, arrived near Little Bethel about 4 a.m. Part of this regiment under Captain Judson Kilpatrick captured 3 Confederate pickets before dawn and were in position to continue the advance as planned.
Nice.
Before Dury's men could advance close enough to the Confederate positions to open the attack, they heard gunfire behind them. Colonel Bendix's 7th New York Volunteer Infantry had opened fire on Colonel Frederick Townsend's 3rd New York Volunteer Infantry Regiment, who were coming up the narrow road from the direction of Hampton to the south. Oh, my gosh. So he heard these guys coming and started firing on him like he was being attacked. Oh, jeez.
Well, they didn't have the Boston.
They didn't have Boston or the White Hankies.
The 3rd New York Infantry was being led down the road by General Pierce and his staff on horseback without an advance guard. You got to have an advance. Why would you not? I don't get it. You always have at least 2 scouts riding the perimeter, right?
You think.
Bendix knew that no cavalry was with the Union force and mistook the 3rd New York for Confederate cavalry. Oh, so he didn't know that there was...
He said he knew there was none.
Yeah, Bendix knew that no cavalry was with the Union force. Oh, okay. And mistook the 3rd New York for a Confederate cavalry regiment.
Well, but they were only an infantry regiment. They weren't even cavalry.
Right. More importantly, the 3rd New York Infantry wore gray uniforms.
Oh,
no. They did. I remember that in the beginning of the war, yeah. Mm-hmm. With white bands on their arms, such as had been previously on the hats, at least, of Confederates.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, wow. Bendix, who had not been given the watchword of Boston, the instructions on the armbands, and he thought, hey, that's Confederate. We need to get these guys.
I gotta get them.
Fire!
Boston. Oh, jeez. After the attack by Bendix's men, Pierce pulled his force back to the south of the Newmarket Bridge, a countermarch of about a mile and a half. Jeez.
Oh, jeez.
So they had to march a mile and a half before they can even assess the situation.
Cray.
And they waited and expected another Confederate attack in a more advantageous position. To the dismay of all, it was soon discovered that Bendix had opened fire with muskets and an artillery piece on the 3rd New York Infantry and the commanding general's party, wounding 21 men, 2 mortally, and causing dozens of other men to flee the field.
Oh, my goodness.
Jeez, not only did they do that, he just proved that a bunch of pussies are in the army.
Right.
Holy shit, dude.
Wow. At this time, the colonels of various regiments, in particular with Duray and Washburn, advised Pierce to call off this operation. He's like, you screwed
it up, man.
This is ridiculous. However,
However,
Butler's aides, Major Winthrop and Captain Haggerty, urged Pierce to move forward. He's like, don't let this deter you. Keep the line.
On.
Keep the line, boys. And so Pierce was like, I will do this. I will continue. At least 40 men of the 3rd New York Infantry had fled back to the Fort Hampton, where they reported the regiments were being cut to pieces by a large Confederate force. They knew they were coming.
Fake news.
Right. They knew we were coming. I don't know.
Well, they probably were cut to pieces. 21 people? That's a lot.
Yeah.
You did. Mm-hmm. Before awaiting a request for their reinforcement, Colonel William H. Allen then headed north with the 1st New York Volunteer Infantry Regiment. There's got to be a shorter way to saying that.
Right.
The 1st New York VIR to help Townsend's regiment. Pierce also soon sent a message back to Hampton for the 2nd New York Volunteer Infantry Regiment under Colonel Joseph B. Carr. He said, we need you up in this area. You need to get up here, Colonel B. Carr. They were ordered to stop at the Newmarket Bridge and ultimately acted as a rear guard.
Okay, so, they're thinking, what if happens if we can't let them advance any forward than this, so let's stock up this little part. They're gonna let Bethel go right now, if that's the case.
Well, if they're getting attacked already. Oh.
Right. We need to strengthen up this part where we're good, where we're actually got somewhat of an organization. Jeez, Boston. Come on, guys. It's not that hard. Jeez. Thinking they had been cut off when they heard the gunfire from the roadblock to Hampton behind them, Dury's men of the 5th New York Infantry withdrew from their advanced position and headed south to the sound of the guns, as did the other Union troops from the Vermont and Massachusetts, under Lieutenant Colonel Washburn. Those troops were approaching Little Bethel in front of the site of the incident. They're like, well, look, we're right in front of this shit. The Union forces had lost the element of surprise for their attack and delayed the timing of it as well.
Yeah,